reaction. The camera caught me a little off guard. Sorry, I will stabilize momentarily. There we are, fully stabilized, folks. Yes, I'm in the vehicle because I'm 40 long minutes from home, and I'm going to try this little light. So basically, UFC 314 is in the books from Miami. That's probably, it's actually a pretty long drive from where I'm at. I'm in St. Augustine, Florida. Just watched the pay-per-view on the big screen. I enjoyed it. I'm a Volkanovski fan. I get these guys' names wrong. But Volkanovski wins the decision over Lopes, if I'm saying that right, or Lopes. But good fight. Volkanovski's a guy that I think is a real credit to the sport. Just seems like a real classy guy, always fights his heart out, coming off a couple of losses and back with the title around his waist. Other big things, I was surprised that Michael Chandler lost again. Hello, AJ. What's up, buddy? Good to see you here, pal. Did you watch the fights tonight? Did you watch UFC? Michael Chandler did not look so great. I mean, physically he looked great, but I guess he just fought the wrong guy on the wrong night. Chandler went into this fight, I believed, number 7 in his division. I think Patty the Batty was 12, if I'm remembering correctly. And whenever the next week's rankings come out, you got to think that Chandler's going to be dropped out of the top 10. And he's going to be like one of these gatekeeper guys now. Like, we might see Chandler on some of these fight nights. I'm not sure how long his contract is with UFC. I know that at one point, some of the guys were signed to 3 fight contracts. I think with the main event guys, they get more like 5 fight contracts. But I think Chandler, going into this loss tonight, they said he lost 4 of his last 5. They were all big-time fights, but now we're saying he's lost 5 of the last 6, if I'm putting my math together. And that's just not good, So, I mean, we could see Chandler round out his contract on fight nights. AEW is horrible. Hook puking in ring. Tony not letting Sting do Luger Hall of Fame. I'll address that quickly. I did not watch AEW tonight, if that was the Saturday Night Collision. As a matter of fact, AJ, on this channel, which I'm now calling Mike Messier, parenthesis, Pro Wrestling and Sports Channel. Hello, Angel. I did a video just recently about AEW and why it's lost its luster for me. So there you go. Hello, Angel. Hello, Twinkle Toes. How you doing tonight? Did you fellows or ladies, whoever you are, did you watch UFC 314? I watched it on the big screen here in St. Augustine, Florida. Nice movie theater. Good crowd tonight, too. I'd say 12 or 15 people. Hello, Pick-a-Pate Animations. Nice to see you. Hello there. I won't even repeat that name. What is your favorite flavor of ice cream? Here's 2 flavors that I like together. Pistachio and chocolate. Especially, I like things like double chocolate or chocolate with some type of excitement, like a Rocky Road, which is kind of hard to find. Pika PT. Hello, Pika PT. Nice to meet you, buddy. So, this show was pretty good. There was a second fight on the show tonight. If you guys get ESPN Plus or whatever country you're in, the second fight on the pre-show, like the pre-show, the early fights, the 6 o'clock fights, if you missed it and if you have access to it, like I said, I watched it on ESPN Plus, but basically the early prelims, the second fight, if I'm remembering correctly, was quite a brutal war. And at this point, that's 5 or 6 hours ago. But I can't remember the guy's name again. The guy that lost was Gore, and the other guy's name was began with a T, and Talias or something like that. And that was a hell of a good fight. And the first round, if you guys saw the Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner fight from 2005, where they just beat the crap out of each other, especially for the first 2 rounds in that Griffin-Bonner fight, this fight between these 2 gentlemen was reminiscent of that. at least for a while. So I would suggest you look into this. The second fight of tonight, Gore fighting the other guy. I think they were middleweights, but they were just beating the crap out of each other. There was a women's fight, and the fight right before the main event on the prelims, I did not really get to pay attention because I was driving to the movie theater. I actually had the fights on my phone with the ESPN Plus app, but I had to concentrate on driving. WWE WrestleMania next weekend, says my buddy AJ. Cody versus Cena. If Cena wins, will that hurt him? And if Jay fails with Gunther, what happens to him? Okay. So I guess we're segueing into some wrestling talk, folks. But folks, if you have comments on UFC 314 or questions, throw them in the mix. But I'm always open to, swerving. So let's talk about this WrestleMania stuff. If Cena wins, will that hurt him? Him meaning Cody? I mean, it's just drama, man. You know the deal. We're wrestling fans. I mean, I think probably the most interesting thing is if Cena does win the title. And another thing, I'm thoroughly enjoying John Cena as a heel. I think it's great. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, which I will bring up right now, no one else is, everyone's saying, oh my God, Cena's turned heel. He's never been a heel since back in 2003 when he was, the Thugonomics guy, whatever the fuck. What about, was it 2017 or so? That Cena was calling out The Undertaker for a WrestleMania match, and they ended up doing like a 2-minute little brawl that Undertaker won, which actually I think counts as a match because the way I remember it, didn't they count a 3 count? Didn't Undertaker get a choke slam on Cena and pin him like in a minute? So they actually did have like a bonus match, and unpromised match. It was kind of hyped, but they never officially booked it. But then that was the WrestleMania with Nicholas and fucking Braun Strowman and the Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns, their second WrestleMania match that was booed out of the place. I think that was from Florida. What a memory I have. And Cena, I think, was heel in that. I mean, Cena was very heelish in mocking The Undertaker for weeks on end on social media. And he had like that weird cartoon, like the sketch cartoon that was all weird. So my point is, we're kind of singing a song. First time our buddy John Cena's turned heel in a while, but he turned heel on The Undertaker. He turned heel on me in person, okay? So there you go. What about Gunther? And I mean, any credibility that Jey has as a main event guy or whatever the fuck, if he loses to Gunther, that's over. I mean, so it's basically, like I said, I think on the fucking the show I did with my buddies there, Dan and Benny in the Ring, I think if Jey Uso wins, if Jey Uso loses, it's like Booker T losing at WrestleMania 18 to Triple H. He'll never be the same. And I don't think Booker T was ever the same. And yes, it's wrestling and guys can win and guys can lose. But at the end of the day, there's some matches where if you have the babyface lose, they just never recover. Or if you do a certain gimmick, Red Rooster never recovers. And, I think the wrestling promoters get a little too wise-assed with themselves. And they think that some of their booking can just be erased, with the passage of time. But I'm telling you, I don't think Booker T was ever the same after he had to carry Triple H's bags out of WrestleMania 18 out of Seattle. And I don't think Jey Uso will ever be the same if he ends up losing to Gunther. And they'll try, if they do that, they'll try to do something, I'm sure, where, he tried so hard and it was a moral victory and blah, blah, blah. And they'll probably have Jey Uso beat Gunther at another pay-per-view, SummerSlam perhaps. But I just feel like if you're going to pull the trigger on this guy, you better do it now. And I think Gunther, to Gunther's credit, I think he's at a point where it doesn't hurt him to lose a match. Kimona Kona just got into wrestling. Gunther is a big strapping gentleman on WWE. He appears on Monday Night Raw, which is on Netflix on Monday nights. He is a big German man. He's relatively young. I want to say he's about 30 years old, which is young for a pro wrestler to hit his prime. And he's got what they call the World Heavyweight Championship, which is terribly confusing because in the WWE, the number one world champion is Cody Rhodes. And the reason why they have two and I don't agree with this, I think it's stupid. It's like having two Super Bowl champions or two World Series champions, but that's what the WWE does, and the fans don't stop watching. So I'm just telling you, they basically have two world champions, which is idiotic. But the way that they justify it is, oh, one world champion's for Raw and one world champion is for SmackDown, which is their two big shows. But the dumb thing is, since they got Raw on Netflix, now they want both championships to be represented on Netflix. So basically, Gunther will wrestle on Raw, and then the other champion, the real champion, which has the lineage, Cody Rhodes, he will appear on Raw and do interviews and fight, but he won't really wrestle. So there you go. So Gunther is the big strapping German. I want to say he's 6'4", 6'5". He used to be a bit chubby, and to his credit, he lost a lot of weight, and now he's just a big strapping gentleman. So you've seen the Cody Rhodes commercial, you've got Netflix, so well, that's a good start. If you want to see some hardcore wrestling stuff, Kimakona, check out Wrestling Sun on this channel. If you really want to go old school, check out Ox Baker documentary. And I have a lot of wrestling clip and wrestling rants and wrestling storytelling, the Bunkhouse Stampede, the Crockett Cup, these things, much older than you, perhaps, I'm guessing. Drew versus Priest is going to be great, if you say so, buddy. And they made that personal, and LA King and Knight versus Jacob Fatu in the tag team match. I don't think Knight dropping it soon. So Knight has the U.S. title, is that correct? I like the Flashly Entertainment Wrestling, but I know it can get intense. Well, I like these questions, actually, from the new wrestling fan. You know, it sounds like I'm assuming that you're mostly watching WWE right now, which is fine. You might discover, as you grow in your wrestling fan journey, as the kids say, that things like ECW from the 90s, now here's a little hint, you might be seeing some ECW stuff from the 90s on, Peacock, or whatever, if you're in a country that has WWE Network still. That's not the best way to watch ECW, because a lot of the appeal of ECW from the 90s was they used songs for the wrestlers' entrance, like by bands like AC/DC or White Zombie, that were copyrighted, and those songs were basically used bootleg. So the WWE, to their credit, doesn't want to break the law, so they basically edit out all that music from the ECW tapes. So if you want to find the real ECW stuff, you got to get on Reddit and dig around for ECW wrestling, and you'll probably find a little thread somewhere that can forward you to the actual real deal stuff from the 90s of ECW that's been preserved by other historians. Also, there are many good YouTube channels for old school pro wrestling. Of course, now I'm trying to think of a name or two for you. Just names like Vintage Wrestling Channel or Monsoon Classic, MONSOON Classic. Those have got some really good stuff. If you want to stick to WWF from the early to mid 80s, there's a lot of what they call house shows, which are basically shows that the business used to get by on, which were non-televised shows, but they have these broadcasts from cable companies in the early to mid 80s that you can find on Monsoon Classic and other stuff. AJ says, Mikey, CM Punk versus Seth Rollins versus Roman. This real fight with real hate and heat involved. I don't think it's a shoot. For Kona, a shoot means like an actual fight that's unscripted. I just think they're all doing their job very well of making us believe. And I do think that CM Punk and Seth Rollins and Roman with Paul Heyman, I was predicting this a few weeks ago, that maybe Seth Rollins ends up with Paul Heyman as his manager when all is said and done, just because they've never done that before. Tiffany and Charlotte, they made it better with all that off-script stuff. I agree. Who's Tiffany and Charlotte? These two women are your top women wrestlers on SmackDown. Charlotte is the daughter of Ric Flair. Her real name is Ashley. She's been divorced 3 times, I believe, all from men. And I think she's a great wrestler. The fans are a little bit sick of her. You'll see that happens, Kamakona. The wrestling fans are a fickle fucking bunch, and we get sick of the best wrestlers. Now, I think Charlotte Flair is great, but she's been around for a long time, and she's always been pushed, which means she's been promoted as a champion throughout her 10-year run. And a lot of fans are sick of her ass. So I think this Tiffany is a very beautiful blonde lady as well. But I think they've been doing what they call shoot promos, which is they've been really going at each other and mentioning personal stuff. And I just think that's part of the show. Yeah, I've been watching a long time, Kamakona. I'm probably much older than you think I am. But thank you. Paul Heyman, the guy with the UFC fighter, that would be Brock Lesnar. And Brock's not been around for a while. Amazingly, because Brock was named in the controversies with Vince McMahon, who was the former owner of WWE, like kind of the godfather of the modern wrestling scene. And Brock was named in the indictment. This is real life stuff of Vince McMahon's sexual allegations. Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, I heard of him. Well, Ric Flair is my favorite all-time wrestler. If you really want to see something special, I would just say watch the 1992 Royal Rumble, which Ric Flair is in, and I'll leave it at that. 1992 Royal Rumble is the actual main event. I'm assuming you have access. That would be on Peacock or the WWE Network, if that's what you have. TNA with NXT is working out better than AEW had them, and Impact gotten better. I'll take your word for it, brother, because I have not been watching TNA, and I go to the NXT house shows, but I do not watch the weekly shows. And the reason why is because they're overproduced and there's too many silly skits. My perspective of Charlotte is humorous to you, and I just got YouTube and Netflix. Well, that's very good. You'll soon find out, Kamakona, as a wrestling fan, and a friend of mine in college actually said this. If you're a fan of Star Wars, which, you know, everybody's kind of a fan of Star Wars, it's just to different levels. But if you're one of these people that goes to Comic Cons and fucking dresses up as Chewbacca for Christmas and all this horse shit, when it comes to Star Wars, you have what, a dozen movies and a couple of TV series? And yes, in the last 10 or 15 years, you have a ton more stuff. But at one point, there was only like 6 movies or 9 movies, and before that there was only 3. You still have a finite amount of Star Wars material to enjoy. Maybe a better comparison is something like Game of Thrones. If you're a big Game of Thrones enthusiast, you have a finite amount of episodes or seasons to watch, or any other type of thing, right? But if you are, or if say you're a big Kiss fan, you kind of have a finite amount of albums to listen to and a finite amount of concert videos to watch. But if you're a pro wrestling fan, you could live 1,000 lifetimes and never watch every single pro wrestling match. So that's the good thing about being a wrestling fan. There's an infinite amount of stuff to watch and get into. Dragon Gate Pro, I got into 10, 15 years ago. All these different promotions, world-class championship wrestling. In fact, I do get kind of angry with younger fans, not you exactly, Kamakona. I'm not angry with you at all, but if you haven't taken the time to watch something like Starrcade 83, which would be on your Peacock or your WWE Network, watch Starrcade 83. It's probably also uploaded onto YouTube somewhere. It's a great wrestling show, and it'll give you a flavor of how things used to be. And you'll see Ric Flair in the main event of that show. And I get upset with younger fans who their frame of reference is like John Cena, and that's about it. But there's so much more. Mikey, I still go to the movies, buddy. The Minecraft movie, here's my thing, folks. I'm not into video games, and I'm not into video game movies. Resident Evil, because they had the pretty chicks in there, was probably the exception. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, buddy. I'm not gonna, because they're having it on all the IMAX screens, but I did see Warzone last night, and I saw it in 4DX, which is a movie theater auditorium that has smoke and all this stuff. Now my light's dead. Hopefully my car battery's not dead. But basically, I'm not going to go see the Minecraft movie. No offense. I don't play Minecraft. I have no interest. Let's see. Kamakona's chiming in. She has seen Minecraft. I just don't know. I seen the Rumble movie. If you're talking about Ready to Rumble with David Arquette and who else is in that? The gorgeous woman, the gorgeous actress Rose McGowan. My buddy Alex Clark, who I've known for quite a long time. Unfortunately, Alex, 2 of our buddies died in the last year there, pal. I'm sure you know about it. Chad Gable is Americano. It rip off Mr. America. Take on Rey Mysterio so that he is zero interested. Yeah, I mean, the whole gimmick with Chad Gable is humorous, and I do think that I think it would be great if they pulled a swerve and they have Grande Americano luchador get unmasked, and it turns out that it's somebody else and not Chad Gable. But you're thinking of the movie Ready to Rumble, there, Kamakona, and I was referencing the 1992 Royal Rumble, which is not a movie. It is a wrestling pay-per-view, and if you're looking for some really great Ric Flair stuff, Charlotte's Father, that's what you need to see. John Cena, You Don't See Me. That's the fun of liking wrestling, or the flashy entertainment parts of wrestling. Alex has a grandson already? My goodness. Chris and Billy Sloan, unfortunately, buddy, if you want to message me, Alex, through MikeMessier.com, I'll give you my phone number through there, and we can talk about it. But Billy Sloan, you knew him. He was Jason's friend. They went to Fairfax High School. No longer with us, buddy, and it's a sad way out. So yeah, the pay-per-view was the Royal Rumble 1992, and that is, if you go to, let's see, Royal Rumble 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, depending on how they list it there, Kamakona, that would either be season 4 or season 5. It's the 5th year of the Royal Rumble taking place, but it's the 4th year on pay-per-view. The first year, 1988, the Rumble was free on the USA Network. So you want to watch the 5th Rumble, which was 1992, January of 92. Normally, I would tell you to watch the whole show, and I do think you should. It's only 3 hours long because you'll see some funny interviews and some of the good warm-up matches. That's a pretty good show to watch, the 92 Rumble in its entirety. So I would say go ahead and watch the whole thing, but you really want to keep your eyes open for the main event. Favorite match for this upcoming WrestleMania? Good question, Alex. I do like the Tiffany Charlotte thing. I mean, I think that's something where I don't think it would be bad if they actually had Charlotte win and then they had Tiffany get the win back at SummerSlam or even, earlier or later. I don't think it would be horrible for Tiffany were she to lose to Charlotte. I just think it's a great feud. So the thing to do is to have that feud stretch out. I am also looking forward to the Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, CM Punk match. I think that's one that's hard to call. You'd kind of think they would have Roman win because he's most likely to go back in the world title stratosphere. But I think there's also a sentimental reason to have Punk win. Oh, there we go. And there's also a swervy reason to have Seth Rollins win because, as I said, if Seth Rollins ends up with Paul Heyman, maybe Paul Heyman helps Seth win the match, and then Rollins and Heyman running. What are some of the other matches? I think the Cena-Cody thing is fascinating. I'm trying to think if there's any matches. I mean, I think it's all falling into place pretty well, to be honest with you. I mean, it's too bad that Owens is injured, but he is. Wouldn't that be funny if that was a swerve? Like, what if Owens just comes out and attacks Randy Orton or attacks somebody else during that tag team match, and it turns out that Owens doesn't really need a neck injury, or neck surgery. That was just bullshit. Let's see. I had a big prediction. I did a recent video, which the new wrestling fan might want to watch. Alex, you might want to watch it. It was poolside. I did 6 WWE wrestlers that I currently care about, and the 6 current WWE wrestlers that I actually care about, and one of them was Uncle Howdy. I actually like Uncle Howdy. For those of you that might be tuning in saying, well, gee whiz, Mike, you're not talking about this UFC 314. I was, but nobody had any comments or questions about it. But basically, I was happy to see Volkanovski win the title. I just thought it was a good show. And Valentina, what's her name, is going to be fighting on the next pay-per-view. She's very attractive. Rhea versus Io versus Bianca. Have they locked that in to being the 3-woman? Yeah, they have the 3-woman match at this point. They had that contract signing last week. That'll be really interesting. I think Io might win. I mean, of course she might. I mean, but they all might. But I think that'll be a good match. I do think there was a little stat and fact that someone brought up. Hold on. Neither Royal Rumble winner, Jey Uso or Charlotte Flair, is actually main eventing WrestleMania this year. In the past, it was always a given that the men's Royal Rumble winner would go on to face the WWF or WWE champion in the main event at WrestleMania. Well, then they started doing the roster split in 2002. And then they started during the pandemic 2020 of having 2 nights of WrestleMania. And then they started doing women's Royal Rumbles, I think in 2018 or 2017. So now we're at the point where you have like all these different things. Like the winner of the Rumble will face the champion of their choosing, which may or may not be the main event of night 1 or night 2 of WrestleMania, because you have the other Royal Rumble winner in the other gender category that's going to choose, and they might be the goddamn main event, and so forth. So this year, it's interesting that they gave CM Punk this spotlighted main event, which kind of makes me wonder if CM Punk's going to be around for next year's WrestleMania, because maybe they could have held that off for another year. But basically, CM Punk is getting the main event spot. It's a non-title match, as far as we know. As of this moment, there's no titles in that 3-person match: Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk. But it's a very interesting, intriguing match, which I think does deserve a night 1 main event. However, that basically bumps Jey Uso and Gunther and Charlotte and Tiffany and anyone else. The other ladies' world title match. They're all kind of shoved down and so forth. So it's just kind of interesting. Mikey, Hall of Fame will be good. Natural disasters and Lex Luger and Triple H and Camellia. Who's Camellia, buddy? Not Kamala. Not the Ugandan headhunter. Who's Camellia? I'm not sure who that is. But yeah, the earthquake and typhoon. I'm sure they'll do some humor with Kamala. Is Kamala inducted now? The Ugandan giant? That's good to hear. Unfortunately, much like our buddy Big Van Vader, he's not alive to enjoy it. I wonder who will accept on behalf of Kamala. His real name was Harris. The last name, he went by Sugar Bear Harris before he was Kamala. So I'm wondering who will, and also kind of wondering about who's inducting this year. And I think it was earlier that said that Lex Luger, they could not get Sting released from Tony Khan and AEW to be at the induction to induct Luger. I'm assuming it'll be DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, to induct Luger. And the natural disasters, I mean, honestly, it could be Cody to induct Uncle Fred, because Typhoon was actually Cody's uncle. And as far as Triple H, I'm assuming it'll be Stephanie and or Shawn Michaels. Yes, no Sting for Luger. What about Flair? I mean, I think Flair could induct Luger. They had a lot of matches together, as Alex knows. We watched many of them. Mikey, worst death we had this year is Val Kilmer. He was an amazing actor. I would agree. I did a very nice tribute of sorts when he was still alive. I saw his movie in the movie theater, Val the Duck, and my review is still somewhere on this channel. Khan should have let it happen. I hear you, man, but it's like, I think Tony Khan at one point, a couple of years ago, he was kind of pissy because he said that he was doing all these favors for WWE and they were busting his balls. So I guess he's just been burned a few times. So, I don't know. I hear you, but at the same time, what's the point of having these wrestlers under contract if they're going to go off and appear for somebody else? Why pay them their contract? If the WWE wants to pay a chunk of change, or if they want to reciprocate, give them the old reach around, then let them do it. What else? Yeah, guys. So, it's unfortunately on the same topic, and I did discover recently, within the last 24 or 36 hours, that another wrestling podcast person you guys might have heard of, Kevin Castle, who I used to have some spirited debates about the topic of carrying cross, to be exact. But I used to listen to the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show. And Kevin Castle, if you've heard the name or if you ever heard him on a podcast, maybe you weren't sure that you were listening to him. But he's two guys from New York who had kind of like, thick New York accents. And Kevin Castle has passed on at a young age. And so today I listened to kind of an interesting tribute show. It wasn't really a tribute show. It was more like a reaction show. Don, Tony, and this guy, Kevin Castle's real life brother. And his brother, I wouldn't say, kind of controversial or kind of unsettling. how the brother, the younger brother of this guy that just died, some of his comments were a little off-putting. Monty and the Pharaoh YouTube channel discussed this, but it was kind of an interesting thing where it seemed like the brother had a lot of anger about his older brother passing away, and that his brother did not take care of himself health-wise, diabetes and so forth. Pretty interesting 2-hour podcast, but if you guys want to check that out, it's the Don Tony. It's on YouTube. If you find it on YouTube, and then unless you want to subscribe to their channel, you just click a button to listen to the audio. Let me catch up with some of the stuff. Mikey, Jimmy Johnston, WWE, Jimmy Johnson, the musician, wants to come back. He wants to make music because, a lot of good music he made. Because the guys who are doing it are horrible. You can't tell who's coming out. Yeah, I think Jimmy Johnson, I've listened to that interview with Jimmy Johnson and CONRAD THOMPSON. There's a clip out now from that I think we saw the same clip, but there is a full podcast interview of CONRAD interviewing Jimmy Johnson. I think he did a lot of the great wrestling themes. I know that he did. I think he did Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bret Hart and tons. And, there's only like three guys, Jimmy Hart, Jimmy Johnson, and Jimmy Hart worked with the guy, McGuire. I want to say MJ McGuire or Jim McGuire. He was a guy that I interviewed a few times. There was only very few of the 80s to 90s that did all the music. And you are correct. For the last 5 or 6 years, the music's not been that great. Mikey, heads up, Dogma is coming back in theaters as celebration of getting the rights back. That's good to hear. Dogma is not my favorite Kevin Smith film. I did see it in the theater, believe it or not. I'm that old. And I didn't really like it. And I can't tell you why I didn't like it. I just didn't. I just thought it was kind of a... Here's the thing with me, with my writings, and for the new people out there, The Impeccable, So You're the Guy, some of my short films you can watch. You can torture yourself and watch Blood Sugar Sedace, my feature film. A lot of people have compared some of my comedic writing to that of Kevin Smith. I never really took that as a compliment, no offense. But I will say this, more so than Kevin Smith's movies, what I like by Kevin Smith are his stand-up. It's not really stand-up comedy. It's more like long-form storytelling. And there's a couple of those of Kevin Smith. He's on stage. There's a live audience. It's kind of like stand-up comedy, but it's more like him just telling funny stories, if there's a difference there, because he's not really telling jokes. He's just kind of telling anecdotes. And one of them is about working with, I believe, Bruce Willis. and it's just a funny fucking story. So if you find those, I'm sure they're out there everywhere, but Kevin Smith on stage for 2 hours. I had a DVD, Talk Hard and Talk Harder, I think they were called. They're very funny, very enjoyable. And get this, the Kevin Smith movie that I actually like the best, no, not Mallrats, not any of the fucking whatever the fucks, the guys at the video store, clerks or whatever the fuck. The movie that I like the best by Kevin Smith, you'll probably not guess, maybe you will. It's called Red State. And it's the first Kevin Smith movie that was dramatic and not comedic. And I want to say at this point, it's probably 15 or 20 years old. But if you want to see something by Kevin Smith that I actually like, it's not a comedy. It's a really cool movie called Red State. Watch that movie and tell me what you think, because I thought it was great. And I do feel like Kevin Smith is one of those guys that I respect him more than I like his movies, if that makes any sense. Kind of like a Robert Rodriguez. Like, I really enjoyed Robert Rodriguez's book, and I've enjoyed some of his movies, namely Desperado, and but I don't sit there and get into Spy Kids and so forth. Or what's the movie that by Robert Rodriguez everybody loves? The Frank one with the fucking black and white and whatever the fuck, Frank Miller, and I don't know. There's just some things I just don't like as much as other people. You know what I mean? And it just is what it is. I don't like video games. I don't like fucking Minecraft. I don't like fucking conventions with assholes. I just like what I like. Mikey, Braun Strowman, do you feel he's a new big show? I do feel that, buddy. I've said that before. You've probably said that before. Basically, the reason why Braun Strowman is the new big show, all these ridiculous heel babyface turns, and he's just another guy that there's so much potential there, but once they start booking him poorly, meaning either Braun Strowman or the big show, they just lose all credibility with him, which is too bad. Because Braun Strowman was always there when they need him. When fucking Roman Reigns dropped out of WrestleMania during COVID, who did they call upon to wrestle Goldberg? Braun Strowman. Yet they treat him like crap. Jacob Fatu is the new Mark Henry. Well, that's kind of an interesting take. I mean, I think Jacob Fatu, no offense to Mark Henry, but he's a lot more agile, and I think there's more with that character, Jacob Fatu, especially if he ever does turn babyface. I think that could be huge. I think they should let that simmer for a while. And maybe if Roman becomes a real part-timer, or they just need if they need someone to turn, and they, like when Magnum TA got injured and they put Nikita Koloff in back in the NWA days. But if they ever need a baby face, like a big baby face out of nowhere turn, I think Jacob Fatu would be a huge baby face. I think the fans would love him as a baby face. Did you see Substance? That was tough to watch. I saw it twice. I liked the movie quite a bit. This is the Demi Moore movie with who's the really hot chick, the younger one. I thought the movie was great, except I thought it was 20 minutes too long. I think that's even the title of my review on The Substance. I saw it twice, and both times I thought the same thing. They should have ended the movie just about 20 minutes earlier than they did. And, I just feel like they just pushed it. The final scene was so grotesque and so unnecessary, and it just felt like the filmmakers were punishing the audience. And I just thought any sense of dignity or class that movie could have had went out the window. Perhaps that was the point, and I think that's what their point was trying to be. But I just feel like they unraveled the thing. We're talking about the Demi Moore Substance movie. Who ordered a Yappuccino? That's pretty good. Xanakin Skywalker. Cannot watch as many movies as you do. Yeah, that's probably true, buddy. I have all the subscriptions. I actually put my Regal subscription on pause starting today. And that's because I wanted to, believe it or not, I actually made a conscious decision to watch less movies in the movie theater because I want to enjoy my life a little bit more. And I realized that I've kind of been using, and this started with the pandemic, when there's not much to do except go to the movies. I've used the movies as a social crutch, as a way to avoid people. So I decided to put my Regal subscription on pause for 90 days or less. I could always unpause it, but I wanted to get back into life a little bit. Final Destination looks good. Is there another Final Destination? Is this the final destination? Gentlemen, we haven't talked too much about UFC 314. I did enjoy the show. I'm happy that Volkanovski fucking won. I wish he would have won by KO before the 5th or by stoppage. And if Chandler would have won, I would have won $78 on my $20 bet. But unfortunately, I ended up losing $30 in cold hard cash tonight on betting. I bet on these goddamn fights. The hate people goes back to Robinson, my friend. The hate people. Oh, yeah, that was me. That's me. You're right. You are correct. You are correct, buddy. That would be so. So that's about it, guys. I'm trying to think of any other big fucking topics. It was interesting to see good old Trump at ringside, at cage side tonight. Got a big pop. And Bill Maher, if you folks know who that is, Bill Maher, who has been a lifelong Democrat, although he is really kind of similar to myself, losing a lot of faith in the Democratic people, the party. Tulsi Gabbard left the party in a year ago or so. But if you watch Bill Maher's take, or it's a YouTube clip, but it's from his show, he actually went to by invitation. Trump invited him to the White House, and they had like this off-camera dinner of sorts, and Maher gave a pretty good story of his interpretation of his experience with Trump, and I thought that was good. That was a good video. How is Jimmy doing? Are we talking about Jimmy Uso, or is that little Jimmy from fucking Ron the Truth Killings? As far as Jimmy in the fucking hospital, I don't know. Will you guys do WrestleMania stream after the shows? Yeah, buddy, I will be streaming after WrestleMania. That will be my Easter celebration. I thought about seeing The Last Supper, Season 5, Episode 1, 2, and 3. I haven't watched any of that series, the Jesus series, but I've heard good things about it, The Chosen or whatever, and I thought it might be nice if, like, on Easter weekend, I have no big plans other than WrestleMania. So maybe I'd go see the Jesus movies like during that same weekend and make it a whole big God and wrestling fucking weekend. Yeah, WrestleMania weekend, buddy, is on, believe it or not, the Saturday before Easter and Easter Sunday itself. Now, to the WWE's defense, from what I've heard and read, it was Las Vegas itself that highly requested that they have WrestleMania on Easter weekend, because they said this is a slow weekend for us, for Las Vegas. Like, people actually have the class to not want to go to Las Vegas and gamble and go to strip clubs and rent prostitutes for the weekend during the holy weekend of Easter. So they bring in wrestling instead. And the WWE, never, looking past the dollars, fuck it, we'll do WrestleMania on Easter. Which, I mean, I guess if you think about it, similar to the Thanksgiving night tradition of Starrcade and so forth, wrestling has been on the night of a fucking holiday before, so it's just different, because I don't think I can remember you have been on Easter. What do you mean, buddy? Where? To Las Vegas? I don't know what you mean. But they've never, from my memory, there's never been a big wrestling program on actual Easter day. Oh, to Vegas. So this is a thing. This is like a thing that people go to Vegas on Easter weekend. Is there stuff that's discounted? Like, do you get the steaks cheaper, or do the ladies have a sale for their services on the Easter Sunday, like a legs and eggs special, so to speak? So we will find out, but I think it's fine. I mean, I don't have a big Easter plan. I don't have a fucking Easter ham or an Easter egg or whatever the fuck. But I will be watching WrestleMania. And like I said, maybe I'll go see the Jesus movies out of respect. And there is the cartoon one too, The King of Kings. It's not the Jeffrey Hunter King of Kings movie, I believe from the 1950s, is actually really good. But that's about it, gentlemen. I'm looking forward to WrestleMania and the Hall of Fame and everything else, and it'll all be very exciting. Travis Scott wants to be Logan Paul in WWE, another wrestler. I think Logan ruined celebrities thing. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, buddy. I think Logan Paul's a very good pro wrestler, and I don't want to hear his promos all the time, but as far as in the ring, he's quite good. So, you know, I tried watching some of the Paul brothers videos, just their regular YouTube videos, and I found them to be pretty boring guys, but, you know, put Logan Paul in the WWE, and what can I say? He's good at being a heel, so I give him credit. I'll be online both nights after WrestleMania, Alex, so be sure to turn in, and if you want more details on the situation, just contact me at MikeMessier.com, the contact, and I'll put my number in the response, or you put yours, and I'll call you and tell you what happened, because it's sad, and there's more details than I will give here. So anyway, gentlemen, I'm going to start the long ride home to Jacksonville, and the keys going in the ignition, and MikeMessier.com. If you haven't listened to it yet, my audiobook, Fight or Play Basketball, is available on whatever the fuck, on Hoopla for free, Amazon Audible for purchase. You can buy it for a friend. That's Fight or Play Basketball by Mike Messier, which is me. And look at that wonderful flyer. Isn't that great? You can freeze frame that. Fight or Play Basketball, wonderful book that I wrote. All right, gentlemen, talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye. Food reviews, AJ. I've got some Mike's food reviews on this channel. Mike's Meals, they're still on the channel, but